If you're anything like me, you may feel like a deer in the headlights when faced with the burning question, what is my purpose in life? And it's no wonder. The question itself feels so final and so serious. And this singular way of thinking sends us into analysis paralysis because we get stuck in either or thinking rather than both and thinking. And the idea of settling down on one purpose for the rest of our lives kind of feels like putting on a straitjacket, especially if you're a multi passionate creative. But here's the good news: your soul is way less boring than that. I mean, think about it. You are an extension of source energy, a microcosm of the divine, which came here to experience itself in the game of life, through you and as you. Do you really think the infinite part of your consciousness has just one purpose? The truth is, we all have multiple purposes. Now, that's not to say that we don't all have an overarching macro purpose, but even then, many times we won't be able to find that until we go through a series of micro purposes that lead us to it. In other words, clarity doesn't come through contemplation, it comes through action. And the most effective action comes from inspiration. So, sitting around and waiting to take action until you figure out your purpose is actually robbing you of the pathway to it. So, what if instead of asking, what is my purpose, which tends to lead to that freeze response because we're afraid of making a wrong decision, what if we changed just one word in that question? What if instead we said, what's my next purpose? Ah, already that feels so much lighter, doesn't it? By embracing this idea of focusing on our next purpose, we shake off the constraints that try to squeeze our wonderfully robust and multidimensional lives into a tiny little rigid box. This approach allows us to live more freely and authentically, celebrating every aspect of our beautiful, dynamic lives. Because now our approach becomes what's next, not what's forever. By the way, this is a great way to conquer procrastination and resistance, which often stem from perfectionism, which often masks itself as purpose seeking. So just ask yourself what's next and let the path reveal itself. So, you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I know what my next purpose is? Well, the good news is your soul is actually communicating this to you all the time by your feelings and your emotions. So just ask yourself, like, what is it that sparks your curiosity? What is it that excites you? What fascinates you? What is that thing that brings happy tears to your eyes? What can you not stop researching? What can you not stop thinking about? What can you not stop talking about? That's where you find your next purpose. And hey, if you haven't found something that sparks your curiosity or that excites you yet, that means it's time to get out there and start trying new things. So it kind of breaks down into two categories. If you're multi-passionate, pick one thing and start. And if you're seeking to find passion, start trying new things. Read, learn, write, experience. And remember, clarity doesn't come through contemplation, it comes through inspired action. Okay, so next I want to talk about the pursuit of purpose. Once you've identified what lights you up and what excites you, you can begin moving in that direction. But here's actually where I see a lot of people get stuck. Following your enthusiasm and passion can induce high levels of excitement and burning energy. And while this energy is very powerful, it can become dangerous when it includes attachment to the outcome. So the idea is to follow your fascination without being attached to the end result. Let go of how you think it needs to happen and let spirit work its magic. I see a lot of creatives pursue something that excites them, but when they don't see those immediate results, they assume that they've failed, or that it's a hopeless pursuit that's never going to work out, or that it was a waste of time. And none of that is true because nothing is ever wasted, my friend. We are always being guided to the next steps along the path by what lights us up, what sparks our curiosity. And sometimes what we think is the goal is actually the little dangling carrot that gets us to the goal because spirit is mysterious and funny that way. Think about it. Have you ever set a goal and in pursuit to it, you actually achieve something far beyond what you ever could have imagined? Maybe you thought you were supposed to climb the ladder in your corporate job, and so you worked your ass off, but you got laid off anyways. And after you licked your wounds, you realized that had you not worked for that company, you wouldn't have developed the skills you needed to start your own business, and now you're able to be an entrepreneur. As poet Mary Oliver says, leave some room in your heart for the unimaginable. I used to think my sole purpose was to be a professional songwriter and music producer. And once I achieved that, a new purpose was born, which was becoming a guide and an educator for other musicians so they could do the same. Once I built a successful business doing that, a new purpose was born, which is to help creatives raise their consciousness, manifest their dreams, and build their businesses from soul. Now, if I had tightly clung to one purpose and never allowed myself to explore my curiosities and my passions, which evolve and grow as I do, I wouldn't be where I am today, which is exactly where I'm meant to be, which is shooting this podcast. So we are here to evolve and grow. So isn't it natural that our purposes will too? So here's the deal. If you can embrace your enthusiasm and passion without attaching to the end result, you're always going to be on purpose and you will alleviate all the suffering associated with desire. Now, speaking of that, there is a saying attributed to the Buddha that speaks of desire being the root of all suffering, but I think it's often taken out of context. Desire, in its true essence, is a beautiful and potent force. It springs from the depths of our soul. We can desire to serve, to experience, to explore, to love, to create. And these desires are not only sacred, but they're divine. So it's not the desire itself that causes suffering. It's when we cling too tightly to the outcome and try to micromanage the universe that we find ourselves in turmoil. So don't be afraid, and certainly don't be ashamed of your desires. Let your desires guide you. And remember, instead of asking, what is my purpose, which is so heavy, the reframe can become, what is my next purpose? Because at the end of the day, if you think you only have one purpose, you're going to take life way too seriously. And of course you would. Okay, if you think you only have one purpose and you don't reach a goal, you're going to think that you've failed. But if you can understand that the pursuit of chasing what lights you up, aka following your desires, is the win, and that there's nowhere to arrive other than the now, and savor every moment, then you will always be living on purpose. Your purpose is an ever-growing, ever-evolving thing because as a human, you are ever-growing and ever-evolving. So it's not just about finding a singular purpose, but rather living your soul's many purposes. So here's the deal. Occasionally, I still get caught in the existential what's my purpose trap. And whenever I feel like I have to choose and I start to feel polarized and limited, I remind myself that I am an expanded being and that it is not either or, it is both and. There's always more room for expansion, more passion, and we always have the ability to increase our capacity to be, have, and do all that we desire. And for my multi-passionates out there, as I always say, I think you can do all the things. Despite what a lot of experts will tell you about having to pick one thing and focus on that and become a master in one area, I actually believe that the future belongs to the skill stackers. So I believe that as multi-passionates, we're going to be wildly rewarded for that. But here's the thing. While you can do all the things, you cannot do all the things at once. So just pick one and start with the thing that lights you up the most right now. That is your next purpose. And once you start taking action, I promise you the next steps will be revealed. All right, my friends, before I wrap up today, I want to leave you with a few simple actionable steps to help you find your purpose. So here's today's action steps. Take inventory of what sparks your interest by answering these questions. What subjects do you find fascinating? What subjects are you curious about? What do you love to do? What are you good at doing? What do you spend a lot of time and energy thinking about? What activities bring you joy or make you lose track of time? And remember, if you're a multi-passionate, your issue is not finding passion, it's picking one thing and just starting. So if you're multi-passionate, just pick one thing and start. And if you're seeking to find passion, maybe you're feeling a little bit lost and you're not sure what your passion is, then your job is to try new things. Read, learn, write, experience, create. All right, y'all. If you'd like the recap notes and slides from today's presentation, I will drop a link to it in the description below. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Until next time, create what you wish existed in the world. Bye.
Everything is always working out for me. Speaking dreams into existence, turning words into reality. Attracting, I don't have to chase. I magnify in every way. I am the master of my fate. I create.